You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast with Sinan Schwarting and Kaan Bayazit.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Orada Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksiyon kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Roma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 36 of the Black Eagles podcast. We are here, Sinan Schwarting, live from New York City, and my co-host, Kaan Bayazit. How are you doing, sir?
Great.
If you don't detect sarcasm, then allow me to be your sarcasm detector. Kaan's not doing great. So here we are, fresh off a match, a real match. You can say that. We played in Konya, and let's just cut straight to it, Kaan. Why don't you just run it down for us?
Well, let me preface by saying it was a yellow card fest, pretty much. There were a ton of yellow cards. I'm not even gonna name all of them. I'm just going to start off with the scoring procedure. So in the 28th minute, Konyaspor got a penalty, and Domagoj Vida saw a red card for deliberately playing the ball with his hands, preventing a goal from being scored. So correct decision by the referee. Penalty kick for Konyaspor. Yatabare steps up, converts. Beşiktaş down to 10 men after just 28 minutes. And 6 minutes added on to the first half on top of that. So, Beşiktaş coming from a long trip in Europe, straight into this tough away game, down to 10 men early on, down a goal, very difficult situation. Halftime is 1-0 to Konyaspor. Then in the second half, Konyaspor almost out of the gate get another penalty. In the 49th minute, on a corner kick, Medel
Real head scratcher, this one.
This one definitely was penalized there for bringing down. Not even sure which one of the Konyaspor players it was, but this was one of those positions that, every corner you have these. They are holding each other. They're kind of pulling each other, and then at the moment that the player realizes that he's not going to get the ball or whatever, he just drops like a sack of potatoes, and the ref fails for it, gives a penalty, even checks VAR, and still awards the penalty, which is just terrible officiating in my opinion. There's no consistency there. Then you have to give a penalty on every single corner. Fortunately, Yatabare, stepping up for his second goal, misses, which puts a damper on Konyaspor's festivities, as Beşiktaş actually managed to squeeze themselves back into the game. In the 79th minute, Wagner Love, the black hole up top, finally did something right in this match. And, he had another very insignificant performance from him, but he gets his goal. It was difficult for him to miss it. A good cross from Oğuzhan, who had come on as a sub for Adem Ljajic just a few minutes before that. 1-1, and a minute later it was Jermaine Lens who made it 1-2 against all odds. Just a minute later, Jermaine Lens on assist from Ryan Babel, 1-2. 80 minutes on the clock, just 10 minutes left, you'd think, but 7 minutes added on, which ended up being 9 minutes, I think. And in the 4th minute of stoppage time, Konyaspor get an equalizer just after an incredible heroic save from Gökhan Gönül on the line, but the resulting corner gets converted into a goal, and it's 2-2 at full time. Konyaspor 2, Beşiktaş 2 is the full-time scoreline, and yet another 2 points lost on the road, and yet another lead given away in the final quarter of a game in those away games. Unfortunately, there's a third away game in a row now that we've given away a lead in the final quarter of the match.
Yeah. These road performances are disconcerting, to be sure. as you mentioned, maybe as a silver lining in our last episode, we have in the upcoming season a lot of those difficult away matches we're not going to have since we've knocked a lot of them away.
Yeah.
Although Göztepe is next, so hopefully we don't compound our misery.
I think if you totalize the season, if you have 34 games, and if beforehand you say, well, we're going to get a point in Konya,
Going down a man.
while going down a man for 77 minutes, playing with 10 versus 11 for 77 minutes, including the added time, and you get a point, I think beforehand you'll say, yeah, okay, I'll take that. If you say you're going to get a point in Bursa, you're probably going to say, well, for us, it's just such a tough away game due to the atmosphere, due to the motivation they have, so I'll take that. Mm-hmm. And then taking a point in Kadıköy, I guess, it's something beforehand you'd probably sign for as well. Yeah, I'll take that, it's better than a loss. But I think, when you look back at it, of course, beforehand you'd say, okay, we'll take 3 points in those 3 games, a point each. But then when you look at the situations in Bursa, we take the lead, didn't play well, but we take the lead, and then you give it away in the final 5 minutes of the match because, just a stupid goal comes flying out of the sky. The same thing happens in Fener in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's a theme,
and then
right?
And then today, I mean, this one is the more forgivable of the three because
although
you're down at 10,
and we'll get into it with our now. I think there are some problems with our tactic. Anyway, quickly before we do so, I want to put a sort of statistical analysis here that we can then, either confirm that this is accurate, the stats reflect the match, or where the stats don't reflect the match, but they did have 15 shots to our 7, 5 on target to our 4 though, so one shouldn't be too confused by that. Possession was actually only 52% in their favor to our 48, obviously. Passes 396 to their 368. Accuracy 79% to their 80%. More fouls on their part, 18 to our 10. And here's an interesting thing. They had 4 offsides, we had 0. And this was interesting to me because against Malmo, this was one of our main problems up front. We had 11 offsides, if you recall. So, obviously a lot of that's because we're kind of not attacking much, being a man down, and then we're also doing much more on the counter, inevitably. But, something interesting there perhaps. But I think what the stats do suggest is that despite being a man down, or in fact, in regards to Konya, despite being a man up, they were not good.
No, they weren't.
They didn't deserve anything.
And that makes it even worse. We were bad, and they were probably worse. I mean, you have to almost say that they were worse. I mean, you're 77 minutes, you are a man up, and you concede 2 goals in 60 seconds. You get a second freebie penalty. You failed. That was just a gift from the gods for them.
I mean, 5 shots on target out of 15. That's not good.
They didn't even. I mean,
Yeah, because most of them were garbage from way out.
Yeah.
But, it's just reflective of how they didn't earn their point here, even with their advantage. So
both teams should get -1 point. That would probably be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? The worst thing is to me, I kind of felt we started the match well. I think the first 50 minutes we controlled. We didn't give them the ball. Yes, we didn't create chances, but we were building slowly. But then it kind of felt like there was this offside where Nate Skubic is allowed to go through behind Janner, which I think was a clear offside that got missed. And they get a really big opportunity out of that. I think that was after 15 minutes. And because the referee doesn't flag for offside there, I feel like that inspires confidence in them.
Is that the same play where Yatabare sort of smashed Karius' head into the ground?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? That was another thing that wasn't called on that same play, which was
and then there was
really
this yellow card Volkan Fındıklı got. I think he just stomped away on Adam Ljajic. To me, that was a red card.
That was horrible.
That was
they had a number of non-calls or yellows that could have been reds.
Yeah, they had a second dangerous attack within the first. Let's say before their goal, they had 2 dangerous attacks. One came from an offside, and the other came from a non-call foul on. I don't know who it was from our players, but someone clearly got brought down. It was a clear foul. it wasn't just someone going down easily. That was, to me, that was a clear fall, and they counter out of that, and it's their second dangerous attack. And to me, those two positions kind of inspired them a little bit. And then afterwards, their goal, I think there was also some discussion whether it was offside or not. They checked it on VAR, and it wasn't, I think. So that's good. I hope
that
it
second penalty was kind of a travesty, and I didn't want to interrupt your match report, but I was thinking of all the times, and two significant ones where Demba Ba is literally tackled by Mehmet Topal in the box and we don't get anything there. Certainly not a penalty, much less a card, right? And Gomez, I remember twice Gomez getting brought down really hard in the box with no calls at all, much less, again, no cards, much less penalties, right?
Do you remember the Larin position against Antalyaspor? That's not a penalty according to the Turkish referees,
exactly.
But this is a penalty.
And think about the impact that could have had on Larin's season individually, but whatever. That's
not just that. That would have probably gotten us a point there against Antalyaspor instead of nothing. Mm-hmm. That's still significant. That matters at the end of the ride. If you.
And what it matters is that when we come against Galatasaray in November or whatever that is, it means that if we would beat them, we'd be over them rather than level on points with them, and that comes at the end of the year. That's people win, teams win by 1 point, 2 points. That's not.
And you're giving this penalty, the medal penalty position. They're literally they're pulling at each other. They're putting their elbows in each other's faces. This is, you can call it a penalty and you can call the fall from the other guy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, those positions don't get called.
Exactly. And there was no in the cases that we were talking about with Ba and the others, there you have clear arms being wrapped around guys, people moving against gravity, where in that case they're both falling forward. So it's a very whatever. We shouldn't harp.
Plus, I don't even think this was a dangerous corner or anything.
No.
I don't even think they were going to if that wasn't happening, it's not like he would have scored or anything. I don't
exactly. It was almost it was away from the play even.
There's nothing really we can say about that first penalty. That was a correct call. Vida, lunged at the ball with his hands. It was a reaction.
I question the red card a little. I mean, I get it, but at the same time.
Yeah, but you have to remember he was on a yellow card already.
Yes, that's the thing. I think
he would have gotten sent off regardless, even if the ref just deemed it a yellow. Then he would have gotten a second yellow and red card because he got a yellow in the second minute.
Is that a lesser
which was
suspension, though? If you get 2 yellows versus a straight red?
Direct red is 2 games, but it depends on what it was for. This is going to be 1 game suspension for Vida. Yeah, that's not really a difference.
In fact, maybe it's better because he has less yellows for the total accumulation.
I don't know if it erases the first yellow though. I'm not sure about that.
No, but rather than being 2 yellows, right? Does a red, because a red is a whole different.
Yeah, but
anyway, whatever.
Then those 2. Whatever.
But so let's focus here then. It's hard. These games have been so hard. You'd like to have 2 highlights and 2 lowlights, but it's hard to. All right, I'm gonna give you the mic because last time I hugged it a little bit to start things off. What was your low light? Because it should be easier to find low lights than highlights again.
Şenol Güneş.
Yeah. I'm glad you said it first.
I think that we've been burning the candle at 2 ends for the last year and a half or so. I think it's. I don't think we should be talking about this on the podcast or this guy should be fired or whatever and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that the last amount of stretch, or how should I put it? I think he's gotten everything he's going to get out of this team. I don't think that he has failed to put this train back on track for 18 months or longer. Even you could even argue that in the 2016-2017 season when we won the league, we weren't playing the kind of football we should have been playing. We won the league that year because in the first year we won the league because we played good football and because we were better than the rest. The second year our second title, I think we weren't super bad. We weren't terrible. We were okay. We were good. But the first season we were really good, I think. The second season we were kind of less bad than the rest, perhaps. Maybe that's a little harsh. And then just last season, we were a dumpster fire in the league, and we are currently again a dumpster fire. And Şenol Güneş doesn't seem to be finding himself a fire extinguisher, because that dumpster just keeps burning, and I think it's almost all ground down to ashes. I think there's nothing left almost to burn.
Yeah, and I mean, here's the thing. Like my defense of any coach in a sort of like vacuum would be to say the changes that are required seem so minimal, right? Like, for example, the center of our midfield should almost primarily consist of Atiba, Ozan, and Ljajic. It's clear as day, and especially as these guys' form kind of comes into play now as well. It's obvious that those are the guys that need to be out there, and somehow he just refuses to put them out there in the starting lineup. And fine, you say, okay, it's a little change. You don't maybe suggest the guy needs to be replaced based on that. But then we go back a year, we go back 2 years. There's always like it's Tolgay instead of Ozan. There's always some miscalculation in that same vital part of the midfield that's contributing to this like very repetitive issue of us like lacking a proper 8 in the role that a number 8 needs to be in. With the 6 behind it, whatever. Like, but and so. At a certain point, what's the expression, right? If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Like, it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that, I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I have to agree. And apologies, I'm still on the edge of that sickness that I was talking about last episode. But yeah, I think it's. I'm never a fan of a change in the middle of the season, and I don't know. Like, I personally want to see a scenario where we're developing a Guti or an Ilhan Mansız, someone within the staff, who could bring a fresh perspective. I like Guti in particular because we know how we've played, and we can kind of imagine. He's had some experience with coaching youths and on Real Madrid. But I'm not necessarily adverse to him having like the rest of the season to prepare. And my biggest fear, and I said this in our little group, is that we replace Şenol Güneş not with something kind of inspirational or young like a Guti, but with a kind of Turkish hallmark, an Ersun Yanal or something of that nature. And then, they do whatever they would do. They get us to 3rd or 4th place this year, which, and then you say, oh, it's hardly fair. They came in mid-season, and there's always
and
that, right?
And then you lose another season because they're
right. And then next season we have Ersun Yanal, and of course that's a throwaway season as far as I see it. So like my only fear in making that change quickly is that we make someone on the board there is a big fan of an Ersun Yanal or Yilmaz Vural or one of those classic Turkish replacement coaches, and then we end up in further trouble down the line. With that said, that's not the reason that you don't make a change, right? Hopefully someone who would want to make a change would also make the right change. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna make a change though. I think Şenol Güneş is going to finish this season. Yeah. Whether we finish 1st or we finish 4th or 5th or whatever.
Maybe even as a service to him, right? Like, because he probably retires and.
Yeah. I don't think so. I don't think he's going to retire. He probably should, but he won't. I think. I think he'll keep going, but. It's so difficult, I feel, because there's this backlash from our community in a way when you even we have fans that they've been calling for Şenol's head for months, and then you have the other part that's like, if you even dare mention it, then
you're a traitor.
Then you're a traitor and whatever. But I think that there comes a point where you just need to wake up and smell the coffee. I think that the worst case scenario if you sack Güneş is that you just keep doing what we're doing, and that's win most of our home games, drop a point here and there in our home games, and then you get a win here, a sporadic win away, and drop points in most of the away games, and you have an average season and you total 65 points or something, and you get third or fourth place. That's the worst case scenario, I think. And then a good scenario would be that it kind of brings along some change. Maybe shocks the players a little bit, and that just a breath of fresh air through the team, the right players getting the playing time. You have someone who doesn't have this insistence of having to play. Because the thing is, I think I've been pointing this out for a while now, where we have this problem where Atiba needs, he clearly needs to play, because without Atiba, there's an imbalance in midfield. But then you have the problem, what are you going to do with Gary Medel? He's one of our best players, but he's not really fitting into that midfield role. Are you going to drop Pepe? Are you going to drop Vida? Who are both, I think you can't really drop either one. So you kind of have a problem there. And then what Şenol does is, well, I can't bench Gary, so I'm going to put him next to Atiba, and then you start with this midfield. I think where that's a problem. And then I love Quaresma. He's one of my favorite Beşiktaş players of all time, but we also have to realize that he's not always the best solution for Beşiktaş today. Again, I think he had a terrible game. He was nowhere. He could have easily gotten the second yellow and got sent off.
Let me interrupt you there. And before I haven't named my low light yet. And I was actually considering Quaresma. I was considering Caner, of course, Vida's red, but I'm partially sympathetic to it in a weird way. Of course, you can never excuse getting a red card in a match like this on the road, but on the replay, he kind of closes his eyes, and it's stupid to put your arms back like that, but it's all.
It's a reaction.
There's a part of it where he's he's really trying to keep them from scoring a goal for us. You can't hate the instinct.
If you ever played football yourself and you ever gotten into a position where like that, exactly. I think you can empathize. I mean, I've had a position in that once when I was a kid, and I made a movement for the ball with my. And
in that regard, it was an
inspired kind of almost.
You know what I mean? The way he flung his arm. Yeah, it was kind of an inspired attempt at that. I thought he might even get away with it.
It's kind of what we've been heckling our defenders for weeks, that they don't throw everything in front of the ball. You have to throw your head in front of the ball. Unfortunately, Vida's head wouldn't reach, so we had to throw his arms in. And also in
that vein, I'd like to give a shout out to Gökhan Gönül, who really sacrificed himself to the netting to save us from the second goal that ended up coming anyway on the corner. But but for my low light. I actually thought Medel was very poor in the first half, giving away a lot of balls as we slowed down as well.
Yeah. I think their goal, the penalty kind of, because people have been pointing to Caner on pretty much every goal we've conceded lately, but it's, or maybe it wasn't a goal. I'm not remembering exactly, but Caner is always cut out of position is what people say, but I think that came from a very poor pass from Adele that got intercepted, and then it ended up being a counter attack, and obviously that's going to happen, and he wasn't the only one who was losing the ball, but
backs that can move forward and stuff as well. So you can't be totally against that. And so when you have a guy caught forward because someone makes a poor pass, it's kind of on the rest of the defense to make up for it. So that's not.
Yeah. It's not always on the it's not always on the back, the side back that's caught out of position, how people like to call it. If your teammates lose the ball with a poor pass and gets intercepted in midfield, and you're already moving up the wing to join the attack, there's only so much a human being can do. I mean, it's not like he can race back at 100 kilometers an hour and be in position. And I mean, I'm not really defending Janner because I mean he has been
his
poor
third
lately.
Poor game in a row, but this wasn't as markedly poor as maybe the last match of his, where he had that stupid penalty. And I mean, but yeah. So I think I'm going to give it to Medel, honestly, because he was not the right. It's partially not his fault. He wasn't the right selection. That's on Güneş to sort of highlight your pick, highlight your low light. But
he shouldn't have started in midfield.
No,
I mean,
no. I think maybe you play him in that left back position again, since Janner's been sort of poor and on poor form. And I wasn't a big fan of that in the match against Fener. Was it against Fener he played on the left?
Kayseri.
It was Kayseri. But he actually held his own there, and so
defensively he did well there, and offensively he didn't contribute too much, but there were other players to do that. I think today that would have been fine too.
Exactly, and maybe you play Lens instead of Quaresma. I mean, but we've been saying that for feels like a year.
Yeah, that's just another thing that I really.
It's been a year of saying that. Literally,
I really blame Şenol for that. We had one hot player at the start of the season. Coming out of the beginning of the season, we had one player that was inspiring, that was hot, that was on form, and that was Lens. And as soon as Quaresma was back, basically, he dropped him to the bench. And yeah, there was that injury against Erzurumspor, and there's somewhat plausible deniability that he just rotated him for that because we had the European Linz game before that, and he put him on the he benched Quaresma for that game, I think, so he started him in the league against Erzurum. But I think regardless, I don't think that's true rotation. Mm-hmm. He just has a clear favorite as Quaresma. And, granted, Quaresma has gotten a bunch of assists, has gotten us a lot of points, despite the fact that we're not playing too well. He's definitely had a hand in the 15 points that we've earned thus far in the games we've played. But at the same time, Lens was so good at the beginning of the season, was clearly on form, and he was doing stuff that Quaresma can't anymore.
And most of that is in the pace that he brings, and the ability to explode.
I mean, if you look at our two goals today, both of them came about through Lens, because he forces the corner that leads to the 1-1, and he completely forces the 1-2 with that the 1-2 with a 1-2 with Babel. I mean, it was all Lens. Lens bailed Şenol Güneş out. Without Lens, we wouldn't have even gotten a point tonight. And now we're left feeling bad that we only got a point, despite the fact that we played for 77 minutes with 10 men. So even though the team performance today was lackluster, and the team selection was poor, and we seemed to be kind of aimlessly just, everything just, I don't know, uninspired and all that, still it's kind of commendable that they got a point in this game, but on the other end, maybe that's more on Konyaspor and how poor they were, because they weren't good. And I think that's kind of also what you need to keep in mind when you look at this. Well, you got a point in Bursa, you got a point in Fenerbahce, and you got a point away at Konya now. Those are traditionally difficult away games, but we met all three of those teams in a bad period for them.
And to be fair, maybe it's a bad period for us too. Increasingly it looks like it.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just want to add one additional point there, and I've said this before we started recording, and I want to get this on the record. But there's a very bittersweet irony to the fact that you have, for example, today, right? Jermaine Lens and Ozan step in and save us, and those are the two guys who you and I, since we started this podcast, have said need to be incorporated into the starting lineup and need to be accommodated, by the starting lineup, because they have the class that they can turn matches for us. And so, not to be too much of a smarty pants about things, but it merits saying that we've repeated that same thing over and over again. And here we go again. Ozan sets up Jermaine Lens on a goal, right? It was
Love, yeah.
Love, yeah.
But I mean, you know what the thing is? Ozan hasn't played well in many games. Has been ghosting many games, and we've heckled him for that. But you have to. But Şenol Güneş, the same exact thing happens with Quaresma, and he keeps playing Quaresma because Quaresma is one of those players that even if he's playing a bad match, he can have that one moment.
Yeah,
you know, and but then apply the same logic to Oğuzhan. Exactly. It's not like if you play Necip that we're going to suddenly play better.
Yeah, and the alternative is playing like basically a non-presence, you know. So why not? It becomes increasingly frustrating when you see our alternatives to Oğuzhan. So. And
I don't think that Medel, Atiba, Laiç necessarily can't work. I think that can work fine if you have a good striker up front. Mm-hmm. But
or
I
Lens,
think if you're
maybe,
playing,
right?
but if you're playing with Wagner Love up top, who is a black hole, he just loses almost every single ball. He doesn't weigh on the defense. Yes, he got on the score sheet today, and yes, he got on the score sheet in the last game against Kayserispor. But he is just so ineffective throughout the game. Their defense is not being tested when he's on the pitch. They're not. He's just getting those. You know, today he got one of those typical pinch hitter goals. You know, those Filippo Inzaghi type goals. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the game, he was nowhere. He works hard enough. He tries hard enough, but he's just not weighing on the defense. It's not like. I am really annoyed at the fact that we loaned out Umut Nayir. I really think that Umut Nayir would have made a difference. I think that he can't do worse than Love. He can't do worse than Larin, and I think he's got more of that spunk in him. That's I don't know, that je m'en fous. I think he would have done better. I think he wouldn't have caved under pressure like Larin does. I think he would have been a lot more physical and weighing on defenses than Wagner Love. He's not over the hill. He's only in his mid-20s. Yeah, he's only proven in the second division, the second tier of Turkish football, but I still think that, you know, give him a chance. It can be worse. And we loaned him out on the last day of the transfer window to Bursaspor, and I don't even think he's getting minutes there. So what was the point of that? What was the point?
And
why
and I'll add that even without Umut Nayir, then give us Guven Yalçın, you know, show us something else, because what we've seen has not worked, and it's worth trying something new, right? Clearly, or give us Ryan Babel up front, because that even has kind of worked. So anyway,
but just the thing with Guven, you know, you have a youth player, it's still different. I mean, then you're kind of throwing in like, oh my, nothing is working. Let's just, you know, that's really last resort in my opinion.
Are we not there now?
Well, I think that Umut Nayir wouldn't have been.
No.
That's my
I said,
point.
But like, given the fact that he's gone now, aren't we kind of at last resort?
The guy has played. I just checked. He's played 16 minutes for Bursaspor this season.
Of course, Bursa. Why would you ever try giving someone to Bursa?
Why would you even give someone to them? I mean, what? Why? Why are you helping them?
All the clubs,
That's
and you
pointless.
know they're going to try to screw us over by not developing him, whatever. But so, Kaan, this is going to be harder. What's your positive for the match today? Who's your highlight?
Jermaine Lens.
That was
That's
actually
easy.
pretty easy, right? Yeah, and we've already talked about why.
And you know what? I've mentioned him a lot as my positive this season, and still he's not a freaking starter.
It's kind of infuriating. You know? It's kind of infuriating.
And how many times have we had to say Şenol Güneş is our low light? Mm-hmm. I mean, and we know the worst thing is that the club isn't going to do anything. They're not going to. You know, we got a point here. We played with 10 men for 77 minutes or whatever.
We always have an excuse. That's great. We always end up with
that's heroic. Yeah, there's just gonna be that. Well, you know, we got a point in a very difficult situation.
And then against Göztepe, it's like, of course we played Wagner Love. He scored a goal. It's always the same things, you know.
And it's just gonna be they're all, you know, they're gonna be in denial until the end of the season. And you know, I want to believe that if in the winter they do a really good move and bring in a really good striker, that it's going to change everything. But it just isn't.
And not if our coach remains so stubborn.
Güneş has kept, you know, last season he got bailed out time and time again by Anderson Talisca. The season before we had that with Talisca and Abubakar. We are leaning too much on individual talent, and today again, it was Jermaine Lens' individual quality that forced the game here. We aren't getting these, you know, we're not getting wins, or we're not getting a draw in extremis like this due to our team play. That's the problem. And I honestly don't believe that if you replace Şenol at this point, I don't think it can go any worse. I don't think another coach can do worse. Or maybe Philippe Cocu.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, realistically, if you let's say you I don't like saying sacking him because I know it's gonna get backlash, but you know what? Fuck it. If you sack him now and you give Guti the reins, I don't believe he's gonna do any worse. And I think that Guti's going to make some tough decisions, and he's going to maybe say, "Look, Quaresma, you've had your chance, and today again, so easily he could have left us down to 9 men." And that's just, he's 35 years old, and he takes a stupid yellow card after we're already down to 10 men and conceded a penalty, down a goal. He takes a stupid yellow card, and then minutes later he does something again where he can easily get a second yellow card. And he's done that way too many times already in his Beşiktaş career, and before that at his other clubs too. That's just him. You're 35 years old when you need to stand up in those moments and help the team, not be a liability. And the worst thing is that next game he's just gonna start him again. In Gustepe, he's just gonna start him again. Maybe he'll start Babel up top and Lens on the wing, and that'll be his his excuse, but he's going to start Quaresma one way or the other. That's just the way it's gonna be. Now we're heading into the international break with this bad taste left in our mouth, I think, and it's just, I'm not a proponent of sacking your coach. I in fact, I even said it yesterday to my girlfriend that I don't believe in that. That's a good solution, that you sack your coach in the middle of the season and all that stuff, because I don't remember. Oh yeah, we were talking about Mourinho's situation at Man United. But even there, I think it's kind of similar. They've come to a point there, and the biggest problem is you have to, when you sack a coach, you don't just sack him for the sake of sacking him. You have to have a contingency plan, I think. And for my argument was, like, look, for Manchester United, you're going to want to bring in a long-term coach. Someone like, for example, Diego Simeone, even though he doesn't really fit the profile of the football that they want to play, but whatever, long-term plan, a proven track record, the right profile, whatever. You want to bring in the right guy, and that guy is probably not going to be available mid-season, so it doesn't make much sense to sack, like you said earlier, to sack him just to bring in a random guy that's going to get at least another season. I mean, you're not going to sack him in the summer again then for the third guy. So to me, then it has to be a proper contingency plan. But I think we, in a way, put that in place with Guti. I think the plan is for him to take over in the summer when Şenol Güneş's contract is up. I don't know if it's would be fair on Guti to say, well, you know what, we promised you a year to work yourself in and prepare a little bit, but we're going to cut that short, and after 4 or 5 months you're taking over already. I don't know if that's necessarily fair to him.
Exactly.
But on the other hand, I think there's not that much pressure. He can't really lose anything except for his job at the end.
Yeah, his reputation.
It's such a difficult situation, but I think we are at a point right now where there's no man overboard yet. We can still salvage everything. Yeah, we're just 3 points behind. We have had 3 really difficult away games already. Point wise, relative to our competition, we're fine. That's not the problem. The problem is the football we're playing, and the lack of improvement for the last 14 to 18 months. That is the big, massive problem.
Yeah, and the stubbornness, the lack of...
well, that's all part of it.
Signs that we're changing, that we're moving forward, evolving.
Yeah, we have not improved in 18 months. We were really good in the first season under Güneş. We played really good football, and you know what? It hasn't always gone the way it should have gone for Güneş. He lost players that he really shouldn't have lost. That there's been, I'm not saying it's all his fault, because there is a difficult situation. Like, for example, now the fact that he doesn't have a proper striker, that's not fair on him. That's a failure from the board.
Yeah. It's like you were saying in preseason that we're playing with a puzzle with a missing piece, right?
We are, exactly, and we're still doing that. But that does not excuse that you can still play good football even though you don't have a competent striker, and we're not doing that. We're just playing long balls, and if recently we've laid off the crossing a little bit, but now we're just playing long balls, and the midfield is still getting skipped. Leitch is not getting involved enough, and even when he is getting involved, the puzzle isn't fitting. It's not clicking. And that's, of course, in part the players have their responsibility in that. But I think that if you've given a coach this long to figure out the puzzle and he can't figure it out, then it's time to move on, cut your losses. And I think we've come to a point like that. And I don't see any realistic... If you look at Galatasaray right now, and they're the top of the table, are they playing good football? No. But they are getting those crucial points. Okay, yeah, they completely shat the bed away at Trabzon and away at Akhisar. But this weekend in Antalya,
they snuck away with it.
Fatih Terim throws on 2 central defenders to play up front because it's 0-0, and he puts on Maicon and he puts on Ryan Donk to pump the ball into the box to get a goal, and it works. And that's luck, but that's also luck you earn, and that's just the difference, right? That's the difference right now. I don't think that none of the teams are playing good right now, but the least bad is going to come up on top, and that's going to be Galatasaray during the current situation. Beşiktaş don't have what it takes at the moment.
Well,
and the only way to swing the momentum in our favor right now is doing something drastic.
Yeah, I mean, so to wrap things up, I will briefly say that my highlight would have gone to Atiba Hutchinson. No.
Sorry,
but I would have said Atiba Hutchinson was my highlight since you took Lens. He was solid in the first half. He's shown his value. He was a little sloppy, I think, in the second half. Maybe that's his fatigue. That's his, he's still finding his form a little, but
hasn't played for ages, and then he has to play a game like this where he's asked to hold together the entire midfield.
And that's a slog fest like this one,
Yeah.
So that's my shout out to him. But there's not a lot to be said for it. He didn't do anything too exhilarating. He was just solid as always, connecting things. He's sort of shown what we've lacked in some regards in the middle there. Although once again, he needs to be partnered with someone a little bit, like Ozan or even Tolga, just with a central midfielder, please, so that we have, some variability in the middle of the field there. So, it's nice that that's sort of clicking to some extent, but it's also another one of those things where we thought, oh, if that works, then we'll be okay. And once again, right, if we get a number 10, everything's going to be okay. If Atiba comes back, everything, at a certain point, it's like you can make the right moves and still make wrong ones, and that's clearly what's happening, and and we'll see how it goes. But like you said, I don't think it's probably not realistic to expect a change right now, especially being only 3 points back and everything.
How many times have we said it like this? This is hopefully gonna wake him up. And it just doesn't happen.
No.
I don't think it's going to happen.
They've turned off the alarm clock, folks.
They're in denial themselves as well. I mean, if you listen to
up to the board.
Yeah, but even if you listen to the post-match, commentaries from the players are like, well, we're proud of Lens was he was like, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to get a point here, but it still feels as a defeat. So he was quite sober about it, and I liked what he said. And I get Karius. He's not gonna throw his team under the bus, and I get his emotion as well, in the sense that you did play so long with 10 players and you still got something from the game. That in a way that's commendable. That is an accomplishment, but it's not enough.
And maybe he sees himself as leading that back line a little bit too, so he's, raising the morale. But
yeah, plus he's not going to be pointing the finger. He's new, given also his role in the Malmo game and all that. He's not going to be pointing. He said what he had to say. You know, there's only one right answer he could have said there, and I get it, but I'm kind of worried that the players believe it as well. That we got so unlucky again.
Good enough.
You know, this was, and I don't know. I don't see any improvement. I haven't seen any improvement all season. I think if you've played, how many official games have we played? We've played 8 league games, and we've played we played like what, 8 Europa League games, I guess. So like what, 16? We've played 16 official matches already, and we're
still not settled.
There's not a single game that we can point to where we can say, well, that was a reference game. That was a good game. We haven't played.
Except for maybe like one, I think Torshavn or something. We remember like, we finally, like Laren had a hat trick. We were so excited. Remember? And then it's pretty much down.
We haven't played a single good game. I'm not even counting the Torshavn games because those are insignificant. But we haven't played a single solid game all season where we were solid for 90 minutes. We have had,
maybe the 3-0 at Partizan was okay.
Even there, I think
home,
even in that game, we got the goals on set pieces and we didn't play good football. We're not playing. That's the big problem. We're not playing good football. Our team isn't meshing. It's not clicking. There's no answer. The coach doesn't have any answers.
Not yet.
And I think when that's the case, and it's been like that for a while, it's not new. He knew that he needed to make changes during the summer, and he had a whole training camp to do stuff, and he didn't really. He only makes changes when he's forced to, when there's suspensions, when there's injuries, and otherwise he always comes back to his default settings. Like, yeah.
I mean, look, all we can really say is that hopefully going into this break, there's some kind of, players only meeting, or, you know what I'm saying? Some sort of moment where people get together and recognize that things are not quite where they should be. They need to make a concerted effort to change things. And I don't know, hopefully that trickles up to the coaching staff, and there's a sense that, just give us Lenz. Just give us Lenz in the starting lineup. Whatever. I don't want. We're sort of circling around now, like we're vultures. Let's wrap things up, Kaan. We have a nice after the beat today, so let's give him an intro.
Our good friend Evran. Akman, he sent in his thoughts on the game, and I think. Maybe I should preface with saying that he is a huge Ricardo Quaresma fan, so he
he's going to be a resident Ricardo Quaresma statistician.
He
How many
say,
Trivellas?
Well, you'll hear what he says, but I think it was just, he did kind of say, well, I understand why he got subbed, but in the same breath, he kind of said, like, but he is one of those players that can change the game and with just one moment. And you know what? If it wasn't, if it was 0-0 and it was 11 versus 11, I would totally follow that logic. But when you're down 10-11 and he's on the verge of getting sent off,
and you're saying there's a chance he'll do the thing that Lenz actually did, which we don't need to rehash, whatever. But yeah, he's
he definitely had some good. He has some good things to say. So definitely stay tuned until #after the beep, and that'll do it for me for today. And I said last Thursday after the Malmo game, I'm not gonna. I don't know if I said it on the podcast or if I just said it to you, Sinan, but I said I'm not gonna lose any sleep over this. I don't really care as long as we win that game on Sunday. And now I think I don't think I'll be sleeping in the next couple of hours. I'm just gonna be annoyed You know, I think people know the feeling that I'm talking about. Just lay awake and you have to wake up early in the morning, but you're just gonna, God damn it! You just want to punch the wall, but you know you shouldn't because then you're gonna break your hand or something. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, or have to rebuild the wall. Well, and I will say that last episode we talked about how we need a bare minimum of 4 points out of these 2 away matches against Konya and Göztepe. So we're still theoretically on track. You know, it puts more pressure on.
They have
result,
14 days or 10 days or whatever to psych up and prepare for that match, and it'll be without Domagoj Vida. I don't think any other suspensions resulted from. I hope not. I don't know if any other players got suspended on a yellow card due to the yellow cards we accumulated. So, let's hope for a good result away at Göztepe. And then we're still kind of on track point-wise, but I don't have any... My fate right now... Maybe tomorrow when I wake up I'll be like, it's all gonna be okay, but then that's just telling myself then that's just, I think that's what we keep doing. We keep going. It's like, you know what? I mean, if this changes, then we'll be okay. And if we get a player there, it'll be okay. And you know, and the one benefit we have, we just
passing the buck.
One advantage we have is that our rivals aren't good either. And I think, you know, Galatasaray, they deserved.
We can still beat them, right?
Sure.
We can still beat them.
They deserve to get their points in Antalya this weekend, but on the same, they could have easily dropped 2 points. There was a position even in the first half. I don't know if it was in or out the box, but that was a clear foul by Muslera that didn't get called. No VAR check, nothing like that. So, you know, those type of details that do decide loss of points or not. Like today, you know. Well, I think he couldn't have really ignored the penalty and the handball, but those types of situations do. Yeah,
certainly the second one though.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. This is the conclusion has been extended here. But tell them what to do about Twitter and what have you.
He does.
Does Evran have a Twitter account?
I think it's like @BGK. For life or something, and I'm not sure. It's something weird. He likes to be a little bit anonymous on social media, I think, so he can call people out, people names and stuff. Even though that's not really. It's not his style. That's not his style. He's a polite guy. But yeah, for sure, check the description. All the necessary information, Twitter handles, Beşiktaş Internationals, the podcast's Twitter handle is available there. I would also like to just quickly make a little shout out that we are still looking. This is the first time I'm saying this, so we are looking, I should say, to add some people on to our team. In particular, we want to add someone to our social media department. Someone who has a passion for Beşiktaş, who has good English skills, and who is also passionate about social media. We need someone to mainly cover match day coverage that includes tweeting, live tweeting the matches, the interviews before the game, translate them and tweet them, after the game, translate them and tweet them, the build up to the games, like, you know, predicted lineups, confirmed lineups, who's suspended, who's on a yellow card, who's 1 yellow card away from suspension, those kind of things, like match day build up basically. So if any of you listening thinks to yourself, well, that's something that would interest me for sure, there's no financial compensation. Unfortunately, we can't offer you that because we're a non-profit organization. But what I can offer you, which can be valuable too, is a streaming package in which you can watch all of the Beşiktaş games in the Turkish League, in the Turkish Cup, even though we're not in the Turkish Cup this season, but the next season then, and all our European games as well. None of those streams will be geo-blocked or anything like that. High quality definitions. You can watch it on your computer or on your tablet or whatever. So if you're up for the challenge, you want to join our team, and you want to be a constructive member of the English Beşiktaş community and want to help out, contact us, get in touch with me personally at Rosarian on Twitter, but the handle will also be in the description. So yeah, for sure. We'd like to add someone during this international break, so we're ready to go into the rest of the season. And that'll really do it for me today. So I'm going to hand it over to Sinan now.
Go Beşiktaş. Don't forget about it over the break. You know, we have a little time. You know, it's perfect timing for me because the NBA season is starting. I have a little break here to...
Don't remind me when you're Knicks, Jesus.
That's right, we're back, baby. Preseason's coming through. But it's good because I can get all into that and not be like slagging on any Beşiktaş stuff. But yeah, enjoy, guys. Enjoy the break. Hopefully, Ozan is going to be on the national team. Hopefully he'll do something.
I just wish, I wish none of our players were on their national teams right now. And
That's going to be demoralizing.
Hey, my name is Evran. I'm a Beşiktaş fan based in New York, and I'm going to give my thoughts on the Konya game. Starting from the beginning, just the first 11 was a little bit interesting. Putting Wagner Love up top after repeated poor performances throughout his Beşiktaş career over the past season was just not a great decision. And then when you have two defensive midfielders with the team that we have, when our center backs aren't exactly ball-playing center backs, it wasn't unexpected to see huge gaps in the midfield, and Yajic was kind of put on an island. I would have liked to just see from the start putting Oğuzhan in there if you're going to have Atiba and Medel, who are not incapable of breaking the lines, but are certainly a complementary midfielder to someone who can break the lines. From the start, we tried to play out of the back, but the fullbacks were extremely high, so we would just play out from usually a short corner kick from carries to one of the two center backs, and Konyaspor would just casually just press with Yatabare and Hurtado, just a two-man press, and it is usually quite effective because the fullbacks are always high up. The defensive mids are both drop deep, which will allow just two Konyaspor midfielders to mark them, and then Beşiktaş will be forced to play long. So that was just disappointing, which is why we didn't really have a whole shot in the first half, other than I think a free kick. I guess Gunesh's plan was to have Yajic supported by a midfield winger coming in. It was either Quaresma or Babel playing very tight to him coming in, but it wasn't very effective, especially with Love up top. Pretty much every time he got the ball, he lost it. He's not, you would think he would be capable, but he's not capable of hold-up play, link-up play, or anything. So, and then once the game started going downhill, the red card, which was a correct decision, Beşiktaş really struggled. Quaresma had to get subbed off at halftime because it looked like he was about to bring us down to 9 men, but at halftime to keep Love on, which he ended up scoring, was just a bizarre decision. Because I understand Quaresma was going to get sent off, but you lose his creativity on the wing. Because all he needs is 1 second of doing something good to change the game. Bringing on Lenz was good because he changed the game positively. Bringing on Oğuzhan was also good, but he waited way too long. Like, Atiba looked like he was dying. He really looked like, I love him, but he looked like an old man out there, especially when we went down to 10 men. He didn't have the energy to keep running around back and forth, box to box. And Yajic looked a little bit disinterested, to be honest. So I get why he put on Ozan for him. We did end up scoring 2 goals kind of out of nowhere. Love did get his goal despite being terrible. I mean, it was really on a plate. If he missed that, you know, it was a hard cross. All he had to do was get his head onto it. He didn't really have to generate any power, just let it hit him in the forehead and it would go in. And then Lens really absolutely destroyed whatever the Bosnian guy's name is. Megged him, played a 1-2 and scored a nice goal. But after that, we never really looked like we were going to do anything, and we definitely deserved to concede the second goal. I don't know what Şenol Güneş was doing, to be honest. Like, his substitutions weren't wrong, but they seemed mistimed, and just starting 11 couldn't really be fixed with substitutions. I'm not saying he should be fired, but some of his decisions are disappointing. And I think at a game like this, he has to take a lot of responsibility for the way that we played, that we were outplayed essentially by Konya. I mean, obviously it's a hard place to play, but we're a big club, and that should not be happening. And especially with our identity, you know, like we play nicely, we create chances, but they really created more chances than we did. They held the ball better than us. And the players they have, that really shouldn't be happening. Just the team shape in general it's just really bizarre. With huge gaps in the midfield, even before the red card. Atiba and Meta would play next to each other, deep in a block. There was no one peeling off to create space. Like, I don't understand why Ozan's not playing. It's not like he's tired from the Malmö game. I don't remember him playing that much. I'm not saying you should put on Tolgay, but even Tolgay could have been better in that situation. Just to actually link the midfield to the defense, because Ljajic was just by himself in this big gap as a number 10. It's hard to get into the rhythm of the game. And then with Ljajic unable to get on the ball, Quaresma and Babel didn't get the ball, and then we didn't even have a striker, so there's that. But, you know, just overall, I'm not going to say a terrible performance, but it was pretty awful. And we should just be happy that we got the tie. And things really need to get better because we don't have a striker. Well, especially with Love on the field. I guess you could put Larin on because he has size, but he doesn't really know how to use it, and his touch is horrible. And I really think we should be giving Güven Yalçın a chance because it can't be worse. I mean, it could be. But realistically, based on what I've seen of him, I don't think it could be worse. So, those are my thoughts.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.